So in the morning we talked about smart grids, and we said that smart grids haven't worked, and there have been different barriers for that. We're trying to now identify from 4 different points of view how we can make smart grids get deployed and be successful. Okay? So we're going to have 4 different presentations. At the beginning, we're going to look at how people at home can help the deployment of smart grids. Then we're going to take the viewpoint of a system provider, so that's the utility provider. Then we're going to take the perspective of how electric cars have effects on the smart grid, and what policy, society, and corporate changes would need to be made in order to help support the deployment of smart grids. We'll start with the first group. Please go ahead.
We're trying to solve the problem on smart grids of how you get people at home to contribute to the energy efficiency and success of smart grids. So we came up with 5 ways to do this, and way 1 was to install smart energy consumption meters. This is a quote from a student at the Public Environmental Affairs University in Indiana. Basically, it says that people tend to underestimate the amount of electricity that they actually use.
Guys, can you be loud and project your voice towards us so that everyone can hear you?
So the problem is that the energy that people use is obscured by the current energy bills. So people are not actually knowing how much electricity they use. They know it by monetary quantities. So the solution that we have is to install smart energy consumption meters, and what that will do is provide the consumers with actual information that they can understand simply, and this will help them control their consumption and save money and save emissions and reduce emissions. So the result is when smart meters are introduced, financial and environmental reasons will motivate the users to reduce their consumptions.
So way number 2 is the do-it-yourself electricity. Basically what this means is governments have allowed people to make their own energy, and so this basically means that they can get some sort of credits. And what the credits actually do is that you can use it to take it away from your own bills, so you kind of save money as well as save energy. This will encourage people to not only generate energy so that they can save money, but they're actually helping the society by generating their own energy as well. And this also helps the smart grid, since they can allocate the saved energy elsewhere, and that means that they can also use the energy provided from the citizens as well.
Okay, way number 3 would be our interconnected smart appliances. This essentially, your entire house with all of your individual appliances will be on the smart grid, monitored by a smart meter, as Francis said. But the appliances would be interconnected and more or less operate on their own for the most part, to avoid peak times, thus reducing costs, as you can see by the graph there. Unfortunately, for some reason, the color green does not show up, so it got mixed with yellow. I apologize. But okay, it's actually really hard to see. Little pies right here are meant to be the yellows, and the other, like, off yellow is supposed to be green, and those indicate the off-peak time is green, mid-peak is yellow, and on-peak is red. There were prices there. It was 6.7 cents per kilowatt, 8.9 cents per kilowatt, and 10.6 cents per kilowatt for off-peak, mid-peak, and on-peak, respectively. So this is essentially giving the financial incentive to have people operate during off-peak times, and the reason why that's a good thing is if people operate their appliances on on-peak times, they themselves, the homeowner, don't really see that much of a difference, but the company, the electric supplier itself, sees a huge difference, and it puts a lot of strain on their facilities, so they need to import or outsource different types of energy, thereby making it more expensive and often worse for the environment, because they need to use more crude and just more harmful forms of energy just to keep up with all the people using the appliances. And there was also an energy management system that will allow you to not to see how much, not just energy, but like water and just air conditioning and all those types of different appliances in your house that will then are just easily seen through this monitor.
Okay, this is a periodical uses of appliances using the smart meter. So oftentimes, might happen to you too also, you might forget that appliances have been turned on and you forget to turn them off. And however, you can set up, using the smart meter, you can set up a time for the smart meter to react to the time in which appliances will be shut off automatically. So since you forget a lot, you can the smart meter will shut it off automatically for you. And what good will come out of this? Appliances will stop drawing power at a given time that energy consumers have given, knowing the fact that most appliances are forgotten to be turned off. Energy is no longer drawn at a flat amount, and also because while the smart meter is present, a household can change the amount of power that is used, becoming flexible for the power, which is the supply, to meet the demands of people. Instead of just giving a flat amount, you can change the energy into a different shape so it can support your own needs, rather than just giving it just a finite amount. Yeah. And since you have a smart meter that can control the amount of energy used in your household, the peak energy shouldn't ever be reached while the smart meter is active and in effect of controlling energy consumption. And not only is this energy efficient, it reduces monthly charges based on the reduced amount of energy that is drawn for a household. So so that's also a byproduct of this idea.
Yeah, okay. So when I was reading up, I noticed that the three main reasons why this smart grid hasn't been implemented is because people actually don't want it. People have privacy concerns. They don't want the companies to actually know what they're using by minute. And the complex rates, people fear that companies are able to take advantage of them if the rates are complex and the customer are unable to understand how it's paid, and the kill switch. People fear that the companies are able to stop usage if the usage reaches a maximum, and the companies are able to stop electricity to ensure that everyone else gets it. So I think the main way to ensure that the smart grid is implemented is that people must accept the risk. They must accept the change that the companies will be able to see what they do, and they must accept that companies will be responsible and not overcharge them. So overall, to ensure their success, I think the individual sacrifices will in whole benefit the society and allow for the success of the smart grid. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. Are there any questions for the group? Go ahead.
How would you get people to try to accept the change? Like, people are very often very reluctant to use it. So.
But that's actually the problem right now on why it hasn't been implemented is because people won't accept it. So if people would accept it, it will result in a change.
Yeah, but how would you get them to accept it?
That's not my problem.
All right.
Well, that was the problem that you were supposed to work on.
Well,
okay, well actually the next group is going to discuss it from the company's perspective. So they might come up with some of the incentives to get people to accept it. Okay, thank you so much for group one.
I think it'll be a more uniform recording if I put it right here.
So do you have the right goes right and simple. Okay, just right and left. Okay. So please be loud and project towards us, okay? And tell us what part or what problem, specific problem you were working on.
So we're going to talk about making smart grids a reality, why they haven't been implemented or as popular as once thought. So these are a couple of reasons why they haven't worked. The first one being the cost of switching to the system is very expensive. This is statistically found, and the EPRI estimates the cost of upgrading U.S. grid will be between $338 and $476 billion.
Yeah, so the smart grids, the use of smart grids have been confined mostly to larger cities like Toronto and so on, larger cities. Whereas the rural areas often do not have the financial resources, and the conditions often are not met because the smart grid requires landscaping conditions, financial requirements, which are often not met in rural towns. So this is so the government or the official authority must see to it that the rural areas have their requirements met. Also, a large percentage of the population do not really understand what the smart grid is and what are the benefits of the smart grid. A survey was conducted, and it was found that that 70% were just aware of the fact that what smart grids were, but did not actually know how it worked or what the benefits were. And the remaining 30% were completely oblivious to the fact of what smart grids were. So I believe we should spread the awareness of what smart grids are and teach the customers or the citizens of how it could benefit them and the environment.
Okay, so now with that being said, so here's the problem that we are going to solve. How can system providers, namely the electricity providers, enable smart grids? So we've listed 3 problems just now. So for the first problem is the general financial problem. We believe that with engineering techniques being developed, cheaper ways will be found to build a smart grid. And in our class, many of us will become future engineers. And as we become more aware of the importance of the smart grid, we will find cheaper engineering ways to build this system. The second problem that we found was the financial problem in rural areas. And we think in terms of long-term implementation, smart grid is beneficial for the whole humanity. So we think that system providers should provide financial support to those areas which cannot afford the cost for the system, because we think in a long term, system providers will also benefit from such a financial support. And also, we talked about how the public is not actually aware of the benefit of implementing the smart grid. So we think that system providers should inform the public about the benefit of smart meters and smart grid, and they can do it through advertisements and many other ways. And last but not least, we would like to talk about the investments that can be done in this area.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about why smart grids are actually worth investing in. So to start off, the grids will support plug-in electric cars. So right now, electric cars are starting to become a bit popular, but one of the major problems is there aren't as many charging stations to plug in and charge our electric cars. Because right now you traditionally have to charge it at home or find a special charging station. So if we create smart grids, it'll also have support for plug-in electric cars. And a combination of a smart meter and smart appliances could significantly save the consumer money. This is because usually people, for example, laundry, they usually do it around peak hours when they get home from work. So with a smart meter and smart appliances, the system people will have control over when you do your laundry, so they can do it at night when it isn't a peak hour. So that way it's better for the environment because there are less carbon emissions because if they're doing it during peak hours, it'll cost them more to do it, and it'll release more carbon emissions because they're using different energy sources. And as I already mentioned, it'll reduce energy use overall during peak hours, and it will result in less carbon emissions. And the grid will also have support for renewable resources, and it'll allow us to use it more efficiently. And also it'll create more job opportunities for recent graduate students and senior engineers.
Well, in spite of the ignorance of the public that was mentioned before, some real huge companies have been supporting such projects, and here's a list of some of these companies, which is quite considerable. Well, and all in all, we as system providers, we really care that our customers benefit from these programs, and we're doing as much as possible. Well, and at the same time, we all care about the environment.
Thank you very much.
Wait, so if you're gonna use a smart meter, so like be making that reading, so let's say a lot of the laundry is done at 1 a.m. during the middle of the day, would they kind of make every hour kind of like, if every hour is the same, then isn't every hour kind of a peak hour? If they're like shifting things around like that?
Should I explain? Sure. Yeah, so right now what's happening is the peak time is usually during about at noon. The peak hour is at noon. So what happens is during the peak hour, the electricity in the storage of the government facility or the grid, as we know, is depleted, and we have to start going into we have to start using the nuclear energy. Like, for example, if we have wind energy, hydroelectricity, and nuclear energy in this order. So once the wind energy and the hydroelectricity are done, we would have to resort to nuclear energy, which is not so good for the environment. So instead, if suppose we do our laundry at the not so peak hours like 1 a.m., we would avoid ourselves from using the nuclear energy, which would harm the environment, and instead use the wind energy or the hydroelectricity, which would help the environment.
One of the things that smart grids would do is instead of having the peaks at a point of time, you're right, we don't want to shift that peak from one point of time to another point of time. We want to dampen it. We want to distribute it over different periods. So that means not every washing machine will be starting at 1.
Yeah.
Some will be starting at 1, some will be starting at 3, some will be starting at 5. As long as it gets done before morning when the clothes are ready for the person to use it to go to work, right? So we want to dampen that peak, and there is a possible way out, which is beneficial for everyone. It's just a matter of incentivizing people to go ahead and do that. Which brings me to my question. From the perspective of utility providers, and we said in smart grids, we can take a look at it from multiple perspectives. So we're assuming there's competition between multiple utility providers and multiple customers. They're supposedly fighting over customers. Okay? So if I'm a customer and I can be connected to multiple utility providers, I can choose which one to get my electricity from, depending on the price that they're offering at different times. So from that perspective, what are possible operational ways in which those utility companies could make people install the devices? Do you have an idea what type of business models, what type of billing would be possible to get those through? Why would I, as a customer, be willing to put a smart meter at home?
Because in the long run, it's better for the environment as well as for you. Because right now what happens is, since you're running, say right now, like you're running your washing machine at peak hours, and then you install a smart meter, and then your washing machine is also a smart appliance.
Okay.
So what happens is it's running at a non-peak hour, so it's the electricity is cheaper, and in the long run,
So should I pay for that smart meter or should someone else?
Well, you should, but of course, we would like the customers to see the long-term benefits of buying the smart meter, because of course, it's not just going to help you with your laundry. It's going to help you with your entire house's appliances, and it's going to save you a ton of money in the long run.
Okay. So basically, the last group is going to talk about the policy and what policies governments would do in order to also promote this from a societal point of view. Are there any other questions for the group? Yeah. Be loud. Be loud.
Something that came up with like, so as it says like, oh, some of our laundry is going to be done at 1, some is going to be done at 3, some is going to be whenever. What if say you have a flight with you the next morning, you need to wake up at 3, and then you go down and say to you guys that your laundry's not done. Like, what would you do about that possibility?
The whole point of having a smart meter basically is the fact that you now know some things that you never knew before, that you could have only found somewhere on the internet. Like, for example, the information about the peak hours and all these things. But it's up to you whether you still do your washing up at 12 or at 1. So this is just to make you actually, to let you know that you have other possibilities and you can save money, which is like, it is possible for you, you don't have to though.
Yeah, you can customize the
according
usage,
to yours.
and you put filters, for example. I want it done before this time. So if you usually have it done before 7 a.m., on the day in which you have a flight, you can put an option of I want it done within before 3 a.m. So this allows you to program your different smart appliances with particular constraints that you choose, right? Because at the end of the day, you're still paying for whenever it's done. So that gives you that option. Okay, let's thank the group.